In the heart of the Cold War, a fire fell from the sky and broke the Arctic silence. It was carrying 4 hydrogen bombs. The world was told all of them were destroyed. That was the first lie. The biggest secret wasn't what crashed, but what they couldn't find. The year is 1968. The world holds its breath, caught in the icy grip of the Cold War. High above the Earth, a terrifying ballet is in constant motion. It's called Operation Chrome Dome. Day and night, American B-52 bombers slice through the stratosphere, each carrying a payload of thermonuclear weapons, each a flying guarantee of mutually assured destruction. These are not just flights, they are airborne alerts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The planes are flying coffins, their crews living on a knife's edge, moments away from unleashing hell. Their patrol routes take them over the desolate, frozen landscapes of the high north, a strategic ceiling above the world. One of the most critical points on this map is Thule Air Base in Greenland, a Danish territory. Greenland is a stark, beautiful, and strategically vital piece of real estate for the United States. Its BMEW's radar station is the eye that never sleeps, the first line of defense against a Soviet missile attack over the pole. Publicly, Denmark is a nuclear-free zone. Their government has assured its people that no atomic weapons are permitted on their soil or in their airspace. It's a policy of peace and neutrality in a world obsessed with war. But in the shadows of global power, policies are just words. Declassified documents would later reveal a secret, a tacit green light given by the Danish Prime Minister to the Americans years earlier. An agreement that allowed the United States to do, as one State Department official put it, almost anything, literally, that we want to in Greenland, On January 21st, 1968, one of these flying fortresses, a B-52G with the call sign Hobo 28, is flying its designated route near Thule. Inside are 7 crew members and 4 B-28 FI hydrogen bombs. For the crew, it's another grueling, monotonous flight in the endless Arctic twilight. But inside the heated cabin, a small flaw is about to trigger a catastrophe. The crisis begins not with a missile or an enemy fighter, but with a simple, mundane failure. A crew member had stuffed several foam seat cushions in front of a heating vent to make the frigid cabin more bearable. The intense heat from the vent ignites the flammable cushions. Smoke, thick and acrid, begins to fill the cockpit. An emergency is declared. The crew dons their oxygen masks, their calm radio calls belying the chaos erupting around them. The pilot, Captain John Haug, banks the enormous plane towards Thule Air Base. But the smoke is too thick, the fire too intense. Electrical power fails, plunging the cockpit into a disorienting darkness, lit only by the spreading glow of the fire. There is no saving the aircraft. The order is given. Bail out. One by one, 6 of the 7 crew members eject into the sub-zero air, their bodies disappearing into the blackness of the polar night. The co-pilot, Leonard Svitenko, is tragically killed. Now pilotless, Hobo 28 becomes a ghost ship. It performs a slow, graceful 180-degree turn and begins its final descent. 7.5 miles from the runway, it slams into the thick sea ice of North Star Bay. The impact is apocalyptic. The jet, laden with thousands of gallons of fuel, explodes in a massive fireball that momentarily turns the Arctic night into day. The force of the crash triggers the conventional high explosives in all 4 hydrogen bombs. This is a Broken Arrow incident, a major nuclear weapons accident. But it is not a nuclear detonation. Instead, the conventional blasts act like a dirty bomb on a colossal scale. The plutonium cores of the weapons are shattered, vaporized, and scattered by the explosion and the ensuing fire, which burns for hours, melting a ragged, blackened wound into the pristine white ice. A toxic, invisible poison now blankets the ice. The response is immediate and massive. The Pentagon initiates Project Crested Ice, a top-secret cleanup and recovery operation of unprecedented scale and difficulty. It's a race against time. They have roughly 3 months to clean up the radioactive mess before the spring thaw, when the contaminated ice will melt and sink to the bottom of the bay, poisoning the marine ecosystem for centuries. The conditions are beyond brutal. The sun will not rise for another month. The men work in perpetual twilight, in the temperatures that plummet to 40, even 60 degrees below zero, with winds that cut like glass. Hundreds of US Air Force personnel are flown in. They are joined by Danish civilian workers, many of them local Inuit, who are hired for the cleanup. The Inuit, with their intimate knowledge of the land and their dog sleds, are initially the only way to reach the remote crash site. The official narrative is one of control and safety. The workers are given protective gear, but many would later claim it was woefully inadequate for handling plutonium dust. They are told the risks are minimal. They work tirelessly, scraping up the blackened, contaminated snow and ice. The debris is loaded into hundreds of steel containers to be shipped back to a secure site in the United States. But as the cleanup progresses, a disturbing feeling grows among those on the ice. The official story doesn't seem to match the reality. The sheer devastation, the cigarette box-sized fragments of the bombs, the constant clicking of Geiger counters. And then there are the local Greenlanders, the Inuit hunters, whose ancestors have lived on this land for 1,000 years. They are told the fish and seals are safe to eat, yet fishing and hunting are temporarily banned. Years later, the true human cost of Project Crested Ice would begin to surface. The Danish workers, the men who scraped the poison from the ice, started getting sick. Cancers, sterility, respiratory diseases. A 1995 survey of the cleanup workers was horrifying. It reportedly found that out of a sample of 1,500 workers, 410 had died from cancer. The Danish government eventually offered a small compensation payment. For the American veterans of Project Crested Ice, the battle was even harder. Their health claims were often denied, their exposure records classified or lost. They were the forgotten casualties of a secret they were sworn to keep. And for the Inuit, the questions lingered. One hunter, Tautianguak Simigak, who worked on the cleanup, would later testify that in the years following the crash, hunters began seeing deformed animals, seals, walruses, and foxes. The deepest, most disturbing secret of Project Crested Ice lay hidden beneath the dark, frozen waters of North Star Bay. As the cleanup crews meticulously accounted for the wreckage, a terrifying discrepancy emerged. They could find identifiable components from 3 of the hydrogen bombs. But parts of the 4th bomb, specifically its crucial secondary stage, a cylinder of uranium and lithium deuteride, were missing. This triggered the most secret phase of the operation. The US Navy dispatched a highly specialized deep-sea submersible, a small submarine called the Star 3, to covertly search the floor of the bay. For weeks, in the crushing pressure and absolute darkness, the mini-sub scanned the bottom, looking for the missing weapon component. The official report on this underwater search remains shrouded in secrecy. The US government has always maintained that all 4 bombs were destroyed in the crash, but the wording is crucial. Destroyed does not mean fully recovered. Years later, a 2008 BBC investigation revived the theory. They interviewed William H. Chambers, a former nuclear weapons designer from Los Alamos who was involved in the Thule response. His words were chillingly ambiguous. He spoke of disappointment in what you might call a failure to return all of the components. He explained the logic of abandoning the search, saying, "It would be very difficult for anyone else to recover classified pieces if we couldn't find them." This mystery is compounded by the political conspiracy that the crash exposed. The Thulegate scandal erupted in Denmark in the 1990s when declassified documents finally proved what many had long suspected. The Danish government had lied to its people. The crash didn't just break the ice. It shattered a nation's trust in its own government. It revealed that in the high-stakes game of the Cold War, the sovereignty of a small nation was a disposable commodity. The fire of Hobo 28 has long since gone out. The blackened scar on the ice healed with the changing seasons. But the story of Thule is not over. It lives on in the bodies of the men who cleaned up the mess, in the lingering questions of the Inuit, and in the dark waters of North Star Bay, which may still hold a terrible secret. It's a chilling reminder that the most dangerous fallout from war is not always the one you can measure with a Geiger counter. Sometimes it's the truth. The darkest secrets are often hidden in plain sight. If you want to explore more stories that have been lost to history, subscribe to our channel and join us in the search for hidden truths.